is discussion to employ Pittman Law Group.
Mayor, members of the council, this is really a policy discussion and not necessarily, a recommendation to apply. If you will notice in the agenda commentary, under the manager's comment, that is exactly how I've worded it. Even though we have got the motion in the affirmative, we clearly understand that this has got to be a policy decision, and in the past the council has always made this policy decision after the budget was completed and only employing someone if you had money remaining. The two policy questions that really, it depends on how you answer number one. The first one is, will the city employ a lobbyist legal representative in Tallahassee during the upcoming legislative session? And that one needs to be answered first. And if the answer to that policy question is no, then there is no reason to go and answer the second policy question.
You want to start, Chief?
Yeah, I probably should. I think, as being consistent with what I said last year, I am opposed to hiring a lobbyist. I'm opposed for a couple of reasons, the most important of which I think we have an emerging consensus in the United States, whether you look to the Tea Party movement or the Occupy Wall Street, that something badly broken in our state and federal legislatures, and that is special interest legislation is overwhelming the system, and we're getting a whole bunch of special favors given to special groups, whether they be corporations or governments, or special entitlements for certain people versus others. And most of this is achieved behind closed doors, and that's what gets our citizens so upset, usually due to the active lobbying interest of lobbyists who are employed by special interest groups in the society to get what they want, a little more for themselves, passed. I think lobbying has become, especially paid lobbyists, has become a danger to the republic in the long run. It's eroding the faith of our citizens in our democracy, and I just feel that we need, in many ways, to make a principled stand that the city is not going to be hiring a lobbyist. So that's my first remark. The second remark, which would go to Part B of Ken's, lobbyists get their ability to influence legislators by, one, giving them money, donations, two, by having political power themselves, being involved in a political structure. You will see a lot of lobbyists have been, officials in any one of the major parties. And the third area, special friendships. That's why you'll see a lot of lobbyists have been legislators before and had worked with the different elected officials. So they use this personal interest. And my second concern is that if you're going to use a lobbyist, which I oppose, you should use a lobbyist that has influence. And that is why most cities that use lobbyists hire two, one for each side of the aisle. And we have one who's on the wrong side of the power aisle right now. So my second comment, if you're a Machiavellian or a moral equivalency type of person, meaning that everyone else is doing it, so I want to do it to get mine, then at least we should hire a lobbyist that has a greater ability to influence. Third observation, I don't think we've gotten a lot for our money. We had a minor piece of legislation passed last year, and maybe I've been hanging around government too long. When people say, boy, did we get close, I always respond, near miss is as good as a mile. I'm not sure what it really is, or, well, is it true, or are we being jellied along? So those are my comments on the lobbyist.
Don.
I can sit here and say I absolutely agree in principle with a lot of what he's saying. It really, you see, just having been up there myself and seeing people going in and out of offices and the like, it's apparent, but at the same time, we've got to level the playing field And we cannot be shut out of the process, at least in my opinion. Does the process need altered and fixed? Yeah, absolutely, but that's not what we're here to discuss. That's another conversation, and particularly Tallahassee and Washington needs some fixing as things that is in that regard. Our conversation here is, since this is the playing field we're playing on, how do we level it? And I'm not happy about having to do it this way, but when I see tax dollars leave Volusia County, leave Port Orange, and not come back to serve our citizens because somebody else is out there playing the game, and that's a lot of what it is people out there playing the game, that's unfair as well. Yeah, and we're talking about a $1.4 million project on a state road, which, if all things being equal, the state should be servicing and taking care of. If it's not for us, asking them, bringing their attention and working the right people, getting in to see the decision makers and things like that, we can certainly debate as to whether we have the right lobbyist or not. But the bottom line is, this is the game, and if we don't play it, then our citizens don't necessarily get served as well as they should. And somebody in Tampa or Miami or even Yeehaw Junction will. They'll be doing it with dollars that came out of Port Orange. I guess one thing that I'd like to see more of a focus on, and there have been discussions and conversations, is we saw pension reform occur in Tallahassee last year, but it wasn't anything that really helped us. It certainly served the state very well, but they didn't really do a good job of listening to the municipalities. And that's, I think, one thing with 175 and 185 reform, something we can utilize a lobbyist much better on to get the message across. You know, I'm stuck taking state dollars for 2 plans to try to add benefits past 99 levels, but my plans are failing. That makes no sense to me, and I know we're not the only city in this soup. Is it because other lobbyists are trying to keep the status quo in place, and our lobbyists aren't doing a good enough job? I also know that if I spent a lot of time in Tallahassee doing the lobbying myself, without somebody that knows the ins and outs, I wouldn't even get the meetings that I need. I spend more time just trying to get meetings than I would be in meetings. I do feel like most of our local legislators are pretty accessible to us, and it's not a like or hate thing. I think for the most part, from what I've seen, that they've been pretty responsive when we picked up the phone and sent them emails or asked to meet with them and the like. And I know that they've got a busy session ahead just trying to get through budgeting and redistricting. But these are other issues that we do need help with up there, and we can't just sit there on our hands and hope they get fixed. We need to be proactive, you know, and we can't. I don't see how we can't do this on our own without getting some professional help doing it. I don't like it, but I think that's just the reality. Does the game need to change? Yeah, but for now, this is the game, and we need to do what's right and play it to the best of our ability to serve our own citizens.
Bob?
Well, $40,000 is a chunk of change.
We're limited to
on
10-minute
behalf,
segments.
I will say
So
that
I'll have to quit now, but we'll be back and follow up with other segments.
on sending back